This is the story of Yoshi Siratori, the incredible journey of a man who defied imprisonment. Yoshi's life story is one that captures the imagination and embodies the resilience of the human spirit. Born on April 23, 1975, in Nagawa, Japan, Yoshi faced numerous challenges and hardships throughout his early years. However, it was an extraordinary journey of escape from a prison that brought him world attention and made him a symbol of courage and determination. Yoshi's story is a testament to the indestructible will to regain freedom, to rewrite one's own narrative, and to overcome seemingly impossible odds. So, how did Yoshi escape prison with just a bowl of soup? Let's follow his story. Yoshi grew up in a poverty-stricken environment, surrounded by economic hardships and limited opportunities. The difficult circumstances in which he was raised had a profound impact on his life. Yoshi longed for a better life, yearning to escape the confines of circumstances and create a brighter future for himself. At first, he did a good job at lying low. He lived a simple life, working in a tofu shop and later a crab fisherman. However, as he wanted a better life, this soon changed. As Yoshi reached adolescence, he found himself drawn into a life of crime. As he came from a very economically poor area, he didn't have much of an education, and without proper education, he found very little opportunity to better himself. Desperate to improve his circumstance, he made a series of poor decisions that led him down a path of theft and burglary. These set in motion a chain of events that would ultimately lead to his imprisonment. In 1936, Yoshi's criminal activities caught up with him, and he was sentenced to 7 years in prison for murder. However, he always maintained his innocence, insisting he was framed by a gang of local criminals who were stealing with him. He also said his confession was coerced by corrupt police officers. However, rather than allowing the confinement to break his spirit, Yoshi viewed it as an opportunity for transformation and redemption. It was within the walls of the prison that he embarked on an incredible journey of self-discovery and resilience. Yoshi's determination to regain his freedom was unwavering. Throughout his time at Amori prison, he devised numerous escape plans, displaying remarkable ingenuity and resourcefulness. Through his relentless efforts, Yoshi developed an understanding of the prison's architecture, security systems, and routines. He studied lock-picking techniques and disguised himself, constantly adapting his strategies to outsmart the guards and surveillance. 3 years after his arrest, he finally escaped by picking his cell lock with the metal wire that was wrapped around the washroom's bucket provided for bathing. He escaped through a cracked skylight. Before escaping, he placed floorboards under his futon to fool the passing guards into thinking he was still asleep. Unfortunately, he was caught, and the police recaptured Yoshi after 3 days, whilst he was stealing supplies from a hospital. Sentenced to life in prison for escaping and attempted theft, he was transferred to Akita Prison in 1942. At Akita Prison, Yoshi was placed in a cell specifically designed for escape artists, featuring high ceilings, one small skylight, and smooth copper walls. Nevertheless, Yoshi was able to scale the walls and noticed that the wood holding the window bars was beginning to rot. Every night, he would climb up to the loosened vents until he was able to pry away the wood and open the skylight. Knowing prison staff would be able to hear his footsteps on the roof, Yoshi waited until a stormy night to climb the walls and escape. 3 months later, he showed up at guard Kabashi's house to ask for help in a case against injustice in the Japanese prison system. Apparently, he specifically went to this guard's house as he was the only person who had shown kindness and respect to Yoshi during his stay at Akita Prison. However, while Yoshi was in the bathroom, the guard called the police, and Yoshi was arrested and sent back to prison. Each failed attempt only fueled Yoshi's determination to try again, to refine his methods, and to learn from his mistakes. His audacity and ingenuity earned him notoriety amongst both fellow inmates and prison staff, creating an air of fascination and admiration around his character. During the winter of 1943, Yoshi was transferred to Abashiri Prison in northern Hokkaido, the country's most northern prison. Still wearing summer prison garments, he was thrown into an open cell exposed to the extreme cold allowing the guards to beat him down whenever he stood up. Angrily, Yoshi vowed to escape, and to the guards' amazement, like some kind of Dragon Ball Z character, he broke his handcuffs in front of them. Later, he was placed in specifically made handcuffs, taking nearly 2 hours to unlock by a specialist who came once per week so that he could bathe. Now, you're probably wondering how Yoshi is going to escape from such a brutal prison, never mind the handcuffs alone. What if I told you that in this prison they served soup? Well, this is exactly what happened and how Yoshi escaped. When the guards delivered meals, Yoshi would always drip soup on the handcuffs and the food slot in the prison door, both of which eventually became corroded, allowing Yoshi to break them. Then, on the 26th of August, 1944, he dislocated both of his shoulders, enabling him to fit out of the narrow food slot in the cell door. He escaped the prison using a wartime blackout as cover. Just to add a little bit of context here, Japan was also affected by World War II, and as this ended in 1945, Yoshi escaped in 1944, in which the Japanese would have had blackout times the same as Britain. Anyway, back to Yoshi. After living in an abandoned mine deep in the mountains for 2 years, he descended to a nearby village and learnt of the surrender of Japan. However, he was captured yet again after fatally stabbing a farmer who attacked him after he was caught stealing a tomato from the farm. He claimed it was an act of self-defense. But by now, he had made the headlines of several newspapers. For his previous escapes and the farmer's murder, Yoshi was sentenced to death by the Sapporo District Court. At the Sapporo prison, he was placed in a specifically designed cell with high ceilings and windows smaller than his head. However, the prison guards at Sapporo prison had so much faith in the cell that they no longer bothered to handcuff Yoshi, and because they paid so much attention towards his previous ceiling escapes, they neglected the floors. While it was true that Yoshi had aged and was fatigued from being a prisoner and from constantly escaping, there was one thing that still fueled his drive: desperation. So, would you believe me if I told you that he escaped this prison as well? Well, he did exactly that. In 1947, he dug his way out by making a tunnel with no other than a pair of soup bowls. Placing the dirt in a small pocket underneath the floorboards, he crawled his way out. After a year of freedom, it is said that Yoshi was offered a cigarette by a police officer in a park. Moved by the act of kindness, as in 1948 cigarettes were a luxury in Japan, Yoshi bizarrely admitted that he was an escaped convict and offered to be turned in by the police officer. Trusting a police officer again obviously turned out to be a mistake, as Yoshi was arrested and tried once again. But the High Court of Sapporo, having reviewed his case, decided that the farmer's death was a result of acting in self-defense, and during his escapes, he had not once injured or killed a single guard, despite the fact that abuse by guards was rampant in all of the prisons. As a result, the court revoked his death sentence, instead sentencing him to 20 years for his escapes. Yoshi's request to be imprisoned in Tokyo was also granted, and he spent 14 years in Fuchu prison until 1961, when he was released for good behaviour. Later, he returned to Amori to reunite with his daughter, as his wife had died while he was in prison. Yoshi lived for another decade, working odd jobs to survive. However, unfortunately, he passed away due to a heart attack in 1979 at the age of 71. A woman who had previously cared for him in the neighbourhood also took care of his ashes after his death, and his remains are said to have been buried in a grave overlooking Mount Fiji. The story of Yoshi is so profound and impactful that it has inspired many people. Maybe not the criminal and prison part, but Yoshi acts as a symbol of defiance and resilience, inspiring others to never give up, no matter the odds stacked against them. His story resonates with individuals from all walks of life, highlighting the strength of the human spirit and the power of perseverance. Yoshi's journey serves as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, when there seems to be no hope at all, or you're being beaten to the ground by power-abusive guards, there is always hope for redemption and a chance to change one's destiny. This has been 5 Minute Mysteries. Thank you all for watching.